Hello and welcome to today's webinar. This is a webinar session for Georgia and New York teacher candidates regarding their EdTPA submissions. We're going to be talking specifically about condition codes and retakes today. Currently, all attendees are muted, and this is to help eliminate background noise. However, if you do have a question throughout the presentation, please raise the hand icon next to your name, and we will get to your question as soon as we can. You can also type in your question in the questions box below, and we will get to your question that way as well. We are recording today's presentation for those who could not make it. My name is Tracy Vasquez, and I am here at Grand Canyon University in the College of Education. And I am also here with Dr. Sid Weinberg, our clinical practice mentor.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. Weinberg. Thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, let's go ahead and get started. So today we will cover understanding your score profile, really going through carefully the submission requirements, because oftentimes EdTPAs are returned with condition codes or are needing to be retaken because submission requirements have not been completely followed. Then we're going to talk about the kinds of condition codes you can receive and what to do about them. And I'll give you a little bit of the retake information that you'll need. So first, let's talk about the score profile. So this is how the score profile reads. You'll see that this candidate received a 3 on rubric 1, and 3s and 2s, and even a 1 throughout task 1, the planning task. And then in task 2, the candidate received a 3, a few 2s, and a 1. And in task 3, it was mostly 2s, but there was a 1 on rubric 13. And that added up to a total score of 30. So if you have received your score profile, such as this one, and you have not passed according to that total score, then you're going to need to retake at least part, but perhaps all of the 3 tasks for the EdTPA portfolio. So by going through this score carefully, it can help you make the determination if you need to retake 1 task or if you need to retake all 3 tasks. So there are some EdTPA retake instructions for candidates that give you guidelines on the score profile and what you can submit again. And when you're ready to register for your EdTPA retake, you go back to the edtpa.com site and go to register. So I would like to go over these submission requirements again with you, because it is important to make sure you followed all of these requirements, because oftentimes students run into trouble when these submission requirements have not been followed completely. So here we're reminded that there are technical specifications for the artifacts, and you need to make sure you've provided all of the evidence necessary for the portfolio. And here, a note about condition codes, that if all of the information is not provided for a single task, the portfolio will be scored as incomplete. And if you receive 2 or more condition codes within the same task, then the entire task is scored as incomplete. And here they have broken down the condition codes for you. So if you have received a condition code A, then the rubrics for planning task are unscorable. So that's your task 1. So you can go through the bullet points there and double check that you followed all of those submission requirements, or that you can make the modification needed when resubmitting. Condition code B is video technical issues. So that's if your video cannot be played, or it cannot be heard, or there are other issues with the video. Condition code C, audio technical issues. Condition code D, insufficient or excessive information to score. So really making sure you're abiding by those page requirements. Condition code E, incorrect or missing blank or otherwise inaccessible file. So that's where you may have uploaded an incorrect file, or there's some sort of error in the file uploading process. Also, if your documents are illegible, then you could also receive condition code E. Condition code F is if you have edited your video. Remember, video should only be clipped from the front and back end. There should be no clipping or editing within the submission portion of your video. Also, if you have blurred your own face, then you could also receive condition code F. Remember, faces should only be blurred if there are students who have not been permitted to appear in the video. Condition code G is for materials unrelated to the handbook or fail to conform to handbook instructions. If you're not in the correct content area, or there's unrelated artifacts, those could fall under condition code G. Condition code H is the English translation requirement is not met. Okay, so all of those condition codes must be attended to. I also want to show you these candidate attestations, because when you're submitting your EdTPA portfolio, you are agreeing to these attestations. And so you certainly want to make sure that all of these are correct. You could run into issues if those haven't been abided by. So I showed you all of the condition codes that you could receive, one or several. Now, when you receive a condition code, it means that your EdTPA submission has not met the requirements. Something about the way you've submitted your EdTPA is not scorable. So that's why you want to revisit those expectations for the EdTPA submissions and make sure you are abiding by all of those instructions. But when you're ready to resubmit or retake your EdTPA, you need to determine if you're going to be retaking a single task, multiple tasks, the whole assessment, because once you submit those missing pieces or those retake pieces, your EdTPA is going to be scored in complete another score. So you may be thinking about why you have received a condition code. And of course, going through each of those condition code details on the attachment that I went through with you is going to help you understand why you've received a particular condition code. But students typically receive condition codes when there's insufficient information. 20% of the condition codes are given because students have offered insufficient or excessive information or did not respond completely to the prompts. 20% of the condition codes across the country are because of missing blank or incorrect files that have been uploaded. 15% of the condition codes are because the video has been edited. And 22% are because students have failed to follow instructions. The information that's provided is not what was requested in the handbook. So from this, we know that students struggle with the evaluation criteria for their students. Remember, that's how you are going to evaluate the student work. Typically, we see that as some sort of a rubric that you've made, or any other form that's going to allow you to evaluate the student work that you're collecting. We also know that students do struggle with scanning, naming, and uploading files. If your file is not scanned in properly, then the scores are not going to be able to view it. If it was scanned in some sort of zoom mode, then it may not be viewable. You may have named the file incorrectly once it was scanned, and then you upload the wrong document. Make sure that when you're uploading files, you are uploading the correct document to the correct space. Also, we know students struggle with knowing what to capture in the video. So make sure that you're attending to those requirements as stated in the handbook. So when you are ready to begin your retake, some of the things you'll want to look at ahead of time are your total score, determine how far you are from the target score, in which tasks were your scores the lowest. So take a look at your scores across the tasks and see if you can identify specific strengths or weaknesses. Did you have a challenge in one particular area, or was there simply some directions that were missed? Another good tool for you to use is the Understanding Rubric Level Progressions tool. This is going to help you understand why scores determined if you were at one specific rubric level over another. And also, another helpful document for you is the Making Good Choices document. That's going to help you understand what are some good things to think through as you're preparing your submission or resubmission. So naturally, one of the things you're going to think about is submission of original versus new materials. So this is very important. If you have already submitted your EdTPA and you're now preparing for resubmission, you can still use a few select original materials. And that's on the left-hand side here. You can include your original Context for Learning information template when you're still considering your original class. If you change classes or you change students, you will need a new Context for Learning information template. You are also allowed to use any task materials that receive condition codes previously submitted materials with revisions that address the reason for the condition code. And your new materials, you will need new lesson plans and new commentary templates. You will need new context for learning if you're in a new field placement, you have a new classroom or a new group of students. For tasks 2 and 3, you will need a new video clip, assessment and work samples, and new commentary responses. So here's a table that will break down the artifacts and commentaries required for retake of selected tasks. To retake task 1, you will need to submit all the parts of task 1 per your EdTPA handbook. Now, while you're submitting all of that, you may use your original context for learning information template if you're having the same group of students. But it still needs to be included. Now, if you're retaking task 2, you only need to submit a few parts of task 1, part A, B, C, and E, and all parts of task 2. Remember, if you are retaking the entire EdTPA, you do need to submit all work required for all the tasks. Even though you may still have some original materials, you do need to resubmit all pieces. Task 3, you need to submit pieces of task 1 and all parts of task 3. And task 4, elementary education only, you need to submit all parts of task 4. And when you're ready to retake, you will need to go to the EdTPA website and click on Register.